and at CNN News 18. We have consistently been able to outperform all our competition. Thank you for your viewership. It is your trust that allows us to bring to you the stories, the debates, the way they should be, with the facts, with the events, absolutely comprehensive. And I thank you on behalf of all my colleagues here at CNN News 18. Now let's get to the story of the day on this edition of The Right Stand. It's coming from Uttar Pradesh. The Uttar Pradesh government decided to conduct a survey of all the madrasas in the state just to get an audit. And there was a questionnaire that needed to be filled which looked at the state of the infrastructure, the number of students that are studying, the affiliations that they have had, whether or not they have state fund or state patronage, where their source of funds are and how they are running about their business and how are they managing their affairs, the property that they have, whether it is rented or owned, just to get an idea of how many such schools are present all across Uttar Pradesh. The entire effort was supposed to come to a closure by about 10th or 15th of October. It got delayed because of various festivities and of course holidays coming in, and by the 10th of November this report is supposed to be submitted and then the next course of action would be decided. Now in between this, the Darul Uloom Deoband and the Jamiyat Ulema-e-Hind head, Dr. Arshad Madani, meets with a group of these Muslim clerics, and there are certain utterances by the senior cleric. Those utterances, it's not just the words that he uses. Mark the tone and the utter disdain that is evident. What all does he do? He rejects modernity, he rejects modern education, he rejects Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision, which he had spoken about in 2018, where he said that on the one hand you have the Quran Sharif and on the other hand you have the laptop or a computer in your hand. So you merge and you walk together, surge with not just religious instruction but also modern education that helps you build your career and draw a clear path. He rejects that. But more importantly, he comes out with an utter disdain for the entire view of Sabka Saath. He believes that the state and the way the Jamiyat functions are different and they would want to keep themselves separate. Listen.
ये दौर मदरसा ये खालिस हमारा मजहबी, हम अपने मजहब के लिए किसी गवर्नमेंट से कुछ नहीं रहते, चाहे हम अंग्रेज से भी नहीं रहते थे, कांग्रेस से भी नहीं रहते थे, आज भी नहीं रहते हैं। हम अपने मजहब के लिए किसी के मोहताज नहीं, हम खुद करेंगे अपने मजहबी काम। हम सरकार की इमदाद लेते ही नहीं, लोग उस इमदाद के लिए मुतालबा करते हैं, हम उस इमदाद को नहीं लेते, हम कबूल नहीं करते हैं। हम जानते हैं कि मदरसों की शिक्षा कैसे अच्छी होगी, आया लैपटॉप लेकर के होगी, मोबाइल लेके होगी या सिर्फ कुरान लेकर। मैंने उस वक्त भी कहा था और मैं अब भी कहता हूँ कि हमें ऐसे लोगों की ज़रूरत है जो लैपटॉप न लें, मस्जिद के अंदर नमाज पढ़ा सकें 5 वक्त की। हमें
ऐसे लोगों की ज़रूरत है जो लैपटॉप ना लें और मस्जिद के अंदर सिर्फ 5 वक्त की नमाज पढ़ा सकें। 5 वक्त की नमाज तो पढ़नी चाहिए बिकॉज दैट इज़ द रिलीजियस एस्पेक्ट ऑफ इट। बट व्हाट इज़ दैट पर्सन गोइंग टू डू? इज़ देयर गोइंग टू बी एनी बिलीफ where there is hunger, where there is joblessness, where there is an effort or a feeling of being not capable enough to match up with the rest of the world? More importantly, ladies and gentlemen, your channel has accessed an audio clip of Arshad Madani where he is not only insulting the state government, but look at the words, the choice of words, saying he spits on government aid, adding that madrasas have never needed government help and have imparted religious education for years.
बहरे हैं, पट पड़े हुए हैं, ये तारीख है मदरसों की। हम आज तक इस तारीख के ऊपर जिंदा हैं। हम कब किसी सियासी पार्टी के दरवाजे पर गए हैं कि हमारी मदद करो, हमें दो, थूक दें उस मदद के ऊपर जो तुम देते हो, हम नहीं लेते। बहरे हैं, पट पड़े हुए हैं, ये तारीख है मदरसों की। हम आज तक इस तारीख के ऊपर जिंदा हैं। हम कब किसी सियासी पार्टी के दरवाजे पर गए हैं कि हमारी मदद करो, हमें दो, मदद के ऊपर जो तुम देते हो, हम नहीं देते।
हम किसी सियासी पार्टी की मदद नहीं लेते. That's what he said. But the state is not a siyasi party. The state is the government. The state is a body which would turn around and not just uphold, get you to not just fund you so that you run your madrasa as well, but it will also ensure that you meet up to certain standards, and those standards will give a certain level of parity to the students of the madrasa to go ahead and compete with students coming in from other educational institutions, religious instructions notwithstanding. But in this case, has orthodoxy rejected modernity? Is that what is happening? What is Madani saying no to? Modern education, science, math, technology, the need of today. If you need to have a certain level of skilling, what is he saying no to? Skilling of the students, making them competent, making them competitive. For what? For job opportunities and for a better life. Thirdly, the NCERT based curriculum. He is rejecting it outright, saying that this book of religious instruction is enough. That is all we will teach. Recruitment in service training of qualified teachers, that is also being rejected. We only need people who can come and teach 5 waqt ki namaz, is what he's been heard saying. Financial assistance to madrasas, it's prescribed in the scheme for providing quality education in madrasas, SPQUM. He's rejecting that too. He has called it madad from a siyasi party. We don't want any siyasi party's madad. Picking orthodoxy over modernity is the question that we are asking. Let's go across to our guests. Very strong words that have been used by Arshad Madani there. Nirva Mehta, editor, Op India English with us. Zina Chaukat Ali, Director General, Wisdom Foundation with us. Binay Kumar Singh, author, Bleeding India, and a columnist himself. And Mohammad Tausif Rahman, political analyst. My namaste to everybody and festive greetings. Thank you very much for joining us here on this edition of The Right Stand. Zina ji, how would you want to react to Maulana Arshad Madani?
I think a modern education in today's world is extremely important, and a wider education. In modernizing madrasa education would mean the inclusion of a large number of subjects like sciences and like technology, like other subjects, to equip the students to broaden their horizons and to be able to complete and to compete in a much wider world. After all, the education of imams to deliver even khutbahs or sermons on a wide range of subjects is extremely important. They must be equipped to talk to other people, even when they graduate. It is not only the religious study of the Islamic university always taught every secular subject. There were mathematics, there were sciences, there was algebra, there was geometry, there was everything included in that. And today, with the fast-growing technology, it is extremely important that the imams learn to deal in a wider world, and they also can teach subjects like peaceful coexistence. Muslim intelligentsia must engage in releasing fresh energy to occupy a vantage point in public affairs. Even when they have to come into public affairs, they have to be able to grasp the economy, what is going on around them, the geographies, the histories. So until and unless you are equipped to do this, and also what happens once you graduate, you are looking for a job. You have to survive. Your family has to survive. And what kind of a job are you going to be getting? And how many imams you turn up? How many imams are going to be getting jobs? Even as muazzins or people who give the call to prayer or conduct a prayer. So the point is this, that until and unless they deal with a wider education, they cannot be able to compete in the modern world. They will not be able to withstand.
But is somebody
they will not be able to stand.
Zina ji is somebody like Arshad Madni, does he not understand? They are running the largest halal certification grouping in the country, and they are using these funds for various issues. Now, how are they running these halal certification things through if these people are not educated? They have the biggest battery of lawyers who work for the Jamiyat Ulema Hind. So how are they, have these people not got modern education? Why is he sitting in Deoband and Zinat ji making these utterances? Why is he turning around and saying ki state-backed help under a SQUEM project or which is already there policy, doctrine? Why is he turning around and calling it siyasi paisa? And why is he saying hum thukte hain aise paison pe? Why is he using these words?
I think, I think that this kind of language is unacceptable. It should never be used. And when somebody is giving you a grant, even if there is a way, if there are certain things that do not come in consonance with your own thinking, there is a way to put it across. There is a way to go get ahead. To understand each other, to understand curricula, to understand the dimensions of education, and then to move on and to go ahead. But this kind of a rigid, really closed attitude, towards anything that to further education, to further knowledge, to further advancement, to further technology, to further the sciences, the scientific temper has to be developed. You see, what they have to understand is that until and unless you have a scientific temper, how are you going to get on in life? I mean, that it's a question that they have to ask themselves. And there are 805 verses in the Quran which are dealing with education. The Quran is talking about the sciences. It is telling you to think. These are the verses for those who think. It is giving you, a various understandings. So I think, this kind of a turning away from this important, very important issue, which is called education, which can bring you to the forefront of many affairs, whether they be economic, whether they be scientific, whether they be political, whether they be social. Until unless you have that education, how are you going to be able to compete or stand up for yourself? I think modernization, there is a big misunderstanding regarding this word modernization. Many people feel that modernization is mixed up with complete and only westernization. That's not true. Modernization is to be scientifically sound.
Correct.
Is to progress.
It
is to be equipped.
Yeah,
so
and it's got nothing to do with westernization. Our own civilizationally, be it whichever civilizations you pick up the Mesopotamian civilization, you pick up the Persian civilization, you pick up the Indus Valley civilization, all of them pursued knowledge. They all cherished a certain level of learning, thinking, inclination and knowledge. But is there a deeper reason or a far greater reason for this tone adapted by Arshad Madni, for this position adopted by him while he is calling for this meeting in Deoband? Mohammad Tausif Rahman, where do you stand on this?
Good evening to everyone. Sir, you have to understand, Arshad Madni's statement, you cannot call it's a very wrong statement, or it's a very rude or a harsh statement coming from such a person, because the kind of background the central government and Narendra Modi government has and what the minority have faced since last 2014. So it has to be a backfire. Now the problem is that what are we talking about, sir? Are we talking about modernization? The madarsa doesn't need modernization. Are we talking about upliftment? Yes, we need upliftment. So what kind of upliftment we need right now? We need some madarsa should be centralized with AC. The madarsa should have some refrigerators. The madarsa, you can provide good food to the madarsas. But the problem is that, sir, that in Muslims, we don't have any interference. If you want a study of deen, you want to go ahead with deen studies, you go ahead with the deeni studies. You want to go ahead with the dunya studies, you go ahead with the dunya studies. You can find many Muslim families, they don't offer madarsas. They have some Maulana teachers at their home. They come and give their sabak, and the rest of the studies are in the missionary school or some Hindi medium school. They are doing for it. But why there is a interference mode where we want to modernize? What is the speculation? What is the specification of modernization? We want to know that. Whereas earlier, from last 2-3 years, we have been hearing the madarsa bachas are jihadis. Sir, it is a very heart-wrenching words. It's a very harsh word where all of a sudden a chief minister comes up and says, whosoever chief minister is, whether it's Assam or Mr. Yogi or whatsoever, a chief minister comes up and says, ye bacche sare jihadi hain. So listening all these things, that
tell me, can you show me, can you,
nafrat sikhaya jata hai.
Mohammad Tausif Rahman, 1 minute. You have taken the name of 2 chief ministers.
Sir, yes, sir. If you,
one minute. I'm coming back to you.
Yes,
I'm just saying, can you pick out the exact quote of Himanta Biswa Sharma and Yogi Adityanath? When and where did they say कि मदरसे के सारे बच्चे जिहादी हैं? Can you please take out the quote?
Sir,
no. You have taken the names of no, sir. You are on national television, Mohammad Tausif. One minute. Mohammad Tausif, one minute. You may have whatever political point
of
view.
Sir, you have to give me time to explain.
I am coming back to you only 1 minute. I have asked you 2 questions. I have asked you 2 questions. One, you can take whatever political position whatever is your political position is one aspect. You are not against education, because if you had not been educated, you would not be speaking in English and sitting here in the language and articulating your points of view, which I believe you are also well read. Secondly, you have taken the names of 2 chief ministers of Uttar Pradesh and Assam, and you have said that they said this. Please tell me the date, time, place where Himanta Biswa Sharma or Yogi Adityanath said madarse ke bacche jihadi hain. This is what exactly you said just now.
I'll tell you,
or
sir,
else take back your words.
I'll tell you, I'm not backing out. I will not take back, sir. I will not take back at all.
So tell me. So we will move forward only after you tell me when and where they said this.
Clearly said on some national television.
No.
यहाँ पे बच्चों को जिहाद सिखाया जाता है. ये बच्चे जिहादी हैं. ये मदरसा को यहीं पर खत्म कर देना चाहिए.
No. Who said this?
These are the words coming from a central government.
Who said this?
Coming from a BJP CM.
Who said?
It is very harsh.
Who said this? Name the CM. Name the CM and when and where did they say? Don't say some national television, some BJP CM. Himanta Biswa Sharma is on record saying.
Famous journalist.
No. Himanta Biswa Sharma is on record saying that not all madrasas are, I'm not saying all madrasas are like this, but there are certain madrasas where students are being radicalized by teachers with nefarious backgrounds, and these madrasas need to be shut down because the intent is to radicalize these children. Now, if there are madrasas, Mohammad Tausif, let me ask you this. If there are madrasas where there are teachers who are misinterpreting the Quran and who are radicalizing children, will you back such madrasas or not? Let me ask you, will you support such madrasas or will you want such madrasas be shut down?
I will never back anyone which becomes a threat to my country.
Correct. So if Himanta Biswa Sharma says that these madrasas who are doing nefarious business, so these madrasas have to be shut down, you will turn it around and said ki sare bacche madrase ke jihadi hai, you turn that word around. But if I ask you as a conscientious citizen and also a practicing Muslim, that if somebody is misinterpreting the Quran and radicalizing children and teaching them wrong things, will you shut it down or not? You said, I will not allow anything against my country. So if you take that position, it is all right. But if Himanta Biswa Sharma takes that position, it is political. So where is your connection? Where is your rationale?
No, so of course it is political.
How is it political? तुम करो तो सही, हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा करे तो गलत. Why? Because you politically disagree with him.
Chief Minister.
What is the logic? Both of you are citizens of the country and both of you are doing something in the interest of not just Islam but also India.
These bachas,
not just India but also Islam. However you want to put it.
I beg my pardon, sir.
Yes, you must, sir, because you misquoted the chief minister. You misquoted, you politically twisted, and you tried to create a fake narrative here on the show, which I will not allow you to do, sir. Now you please pause. Now you please pause. Is there a rule somewhere? Let me ask Zeenat Chowkatali ji. Let me ask Nirva Mehta and Binay ji have not yet spoken. I'm going back to Zeenat ji. Zeenat ji, like I said, let's keep the politics aside. Deen and Dunya ki baat Mohammad Tausif ne ki. Is there any rule which says that madrasas cannot teach about deen and dunya, or they should teach only about deen? And how they teach, nobody should monitor. You can run without any monitoring, without anybody saying if the religious instruction being given is right, or if the children are being actually equipped to go ahead and face dunya after understanding deen.
Thank you for that question. It's an important question, Anand. You see, there is hukuk al-ibad and there is hukuk al-nas. That means that you have responsibilities towards God and you have responsibilities towards human beings. So here when you talk about responsibilities towards God and towards human beings, and when then you have to understand what are your responsibilities towards God and what are your responsibilities towards human beings, which falls into a regular secular education, while the first falls into the understanding. Now, I would like to ask this question with a lot of pain and with a lot of hesitation. I'm asking this question. When it came to this phrase, which is hurting me, which is called "Sar Tan Se Juda," and people were threatened and killed, and this falls into
Sir,
the
that is
realm
not
of
coming
religion.
from madarsa,
Then
no sir.
why
Sir, tan se
is it that
juda.
religious
I'm
leaders
sorry
are
to
not
interrupt.
able to
सर तन से जुदा कोई
resolve this?
मदरसा से नहीं आ रही है सर.
मदरसे के सामने से मदरसे और मस्जिद से
नहीं,
ही बोलाए गए थे, लेकिन एक
नहीं,
मिनट, लेट अस
नहीं नहीं
स्पीक,
सर कोई मदरसा से
लेट
नहीं
अस
आ रही
स्पीक,
है
लेट
सर
अस
तन से
स्पीक, लेट
जुदा.
अस स्पीक, लेट अस स्पीक,
There are certain incidents happen in India.
let us
That's why
speak,
this statement
let us
came,
speak,
sir.
let us speak, let
आप
us
सही
speak.
बोल रहे हैं, ये मदरसे से नहीं आ रही है, लेकिन देखिए there are certain terms such as apostasy, blasphemy, जिहाद, काफिर, जिसका explanation मदरसा के बच्चों को सिखाना है, लेकिन वो सिखाने नहीं जाती है. देखिए यहाँ एक दारुल नदवा है, NU, दारुल नदवाल उलमा ऑफ इंडोनेशिया, जिसने ये वर्ड काफिर, जो बहुत सारा प्रॉब्लम हमारे लिए इंडिया में क्रिएट किया है, उसके लिए उन लोग ने साफ बोले हैं व्हाट इज द वर्ड मीन. इट मीन्स समबडी हु हाइड्स द ट्रूथ. और ये अल्फाज उन्होंने लेके बताए हैं कि नॉन मुस्लिम को हम काफिर नहीं कह सकते. तो मेरा बोलने का मतलब ये है कि देयर आर सर्टेन टर्मिनोलॉजीज जो हमारे मदरसों के बच्चों को सिखाना चाहिए और उनको ये समझाना चाहिए कि दूसरे in the other world they have to explain this.
Quran only teaches peace and how to respect other religion. Quran doesn't teach us anything, ma'am.
Well, so what will you do? What will you and how will you do? My simple question is,
मतलब ये है कि जब आप मदरसों में पढ़ाते हैं तो these also must be tackled. यानी कि रिलीजियस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से भी आप जरूर पढ़ाइए. रिलीजन इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट. इट इज अ स्पिरिचुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग. इट इज द हार्ट ऑफ मेनी थिंग्स. लेकिन जो सही तरीके हैं उसको आप मदरसों में पढ़ाना जरूरी है. व्हेन रिलीजन इज कंसर्न. द अदर साइड इज के हुकूक नास जो है, इट हैज टू बी अ सेक्युलर एजुकेशन आल्सो. व्हाट इज रॉन्ग इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग टेक्नोलॉजी? व्हाट इज रॉन्ग इन लर्निंग साइंस?
Right.
What is wrong in learning geography? What is wrong in learning history? What is wrong in learning,
and if children are going to one school to learn, why can't they learn all of it there? And why should somebody say that no, I will not teach and you cannot tell me what to teach and I will continue to go ahead and do whatever I want unchecked and unbarred? Now that's where the argument is. Nirva Mehta, Binay Kumar Singh, bringing you into the debate. 20 minutes into the show, that thank you for your patience, and I'm coming across to you now one by one. Now, Nirva Mehta, if I remember correctly, Mullah Umar studied from a Deobandi seminary. Out of the top 10 terrorist outfits and organizations in this region, about 7 or 8 of them came out of a Deobandi seminary. Does that mean that every other student who's coming out of a Deobandi seminary is a terrorist? No, not at all. But does that mean that somebody needs to check what is being taught in these kind of seminaries with this kind of thought process and ideology? Perhaps yes. Secondly, my more important question, what does a child do after grade 5? Till grade 5 you give primary education, and after that how do you equip that child who studied out of a madrasa to go ahead and compete in this very, very competitive, brutal world? How do they go and achieve what they have to achieve? Is it wrong for somebody to turn around and ask, what is it that you're teaching? How is it that you're teaching? What is your method of instruction? And is it wrong for somebody to believe that if they are running a private institution under Article 30/1, they have the right to do it how they want to without having to answer anybody else? As Arshad Madani says. Nirva Mehta, and then Binayji, I'll come to you.
See, the thing is that Deobandi movement has been one of the Taliban has been inspired from the Deobandi movement. When Taliban took over Afghanistan last year, the Maulanas at Deoband had been hailing Taliban for, for defeating a superpower like America. The radicalization in certain parts of the society is there and it is real. Again, not saying that all madrasas are imparting that education, but certain section are, and there is no denying that as well. So there has to be a check at some point if there are these places, these educational institutes are ending up, radicalizing the children.
Is the problem.
Which that is the problem.
End of the day, by hook or by crook, or by any means, the madarsa always get related to jihadis.
No,
that is the problem.
Nobody, it hurts you, right?
There is my problem,
Mohammed
sir.
Tausif, that's your problem. That is exactly the problem which should not be there for any of us, mate. That's exactly what you're trying to say. If everybody is monitored, if everybody is found out who's teaching where, what is being taught there, where will you have the problem? You will not have the problem of madrasas being blanket. It should not be done. It is wrong. I am on your side when I say no madrasa should be branded a place where jihadis are being bred. It is wrong. It is wrong. That should not be said at all. And that's exactly the reason why when these madrasas crop up, there has to be some monitoring authority to decide what is it that they are doing. ये किसकी जगह है, पैसा कहाँ से आ रहा है, ये कौन है जो अपने आप को मौलाना बता के यहाँ कुरान पढ़ाने की बात कर रहा है, ये कौन से बच्चे हैं, इन्हें किस तरह की तालीम दी जा रही है, क्या सिखाया जा रहा है, कोई तो मॉनिटर करने वाला होना चाहिए ना. नीरवा मेहता कंप्लीट.
कोई कॉर्पोरेट में नहीं जाना चाहते हैं.
Nirva Mehta complete.
Okay, so corporate में नहीं जाना चाहते. So all these unrecognized madrasas, they end up having unrecognized teachers. They don't have any degree. They get hired only by other such unrecognized madrasas.
Ma'am, they have the Islamic degree, ma'am. They wanted to learn Islam. They have the Islamic degree.
Who gives them that degree? Who gives them that degree?
If you,
who gives them that degree?
Why don't you Sudarufy your own school?
Tausif, who gives them that degree, Mohammed Tausif?
Who's a part of government?
Sir, we should look at our own school.
Mohammed
All the
Tausif,
missionary school, all the private school.
Who gives them that degree? All these schools come under a certain level of regulation, audit and scrutiny, sir. Except for these madrasas which refuse to be audited, which refuse to come under scrutiny. I am asking you, who gives them that degree?
Sir, a certified Maulana who has
Who is the certified Maulana? Who has certified this Maulana? Who has certified this Maulana?
They do the pagdi. They give the pagdi and he becomes a Hafiz.
Who has certified this Maulana?
So after Hafiz Quran, that guy is not going to work for
Who has certified this Maulana? Can you tell me who has certified the Maulana? Who has certified the Maulana in that small little mosque in one particular corner of this place, which has just cropped up 10 days ago, and there are 10 students now in the last 10 days who have started going there because somebody is sitting there and saying that I know Quran and I am the one who's going to teach you. What is your certification? I certify myself. I have read the Quran, I study the Quran,
Sir,
I can teach the Quran, and I have got the... No, how do you know who's a self-proclaimed Hafiz and who's not, sir?
I will explain you right now.
How do you know?
Let's elaborate this debate and I will explain you. The Hafiz Quran, he recites the Quran by heart. And that is a very big thing in our religion.
Correct.
So when he by-hearts the Quran, he knows how many Bismillah is there and what is the teaching of
just
Islam.
Because you have by-hearted the Quran, do you understand the Quran, and can I trust you to teach it properly,
and
sir?
What is a charity?
Can I trust you to teach it properly, sir?
Yes, of course, sir. Of course.
Can I trust you to teach it?
I can teach someone properly, sir.
So then somebody who claims to be Hafiz Quran, let me ask you, Mohammed Asif Rahman, I'm asking you.
If I want to become a Hafiz Quran or not.
If somebody knows the Quran by heart, he becomes a Hafiz Quran, then should there not be somebody who will test that every other Maulana who claims to be a Hafiz Quran is tested? And what is it that person is teaching?
Exactly.
You know the alphabet, sir. You know the alphabets in English. You may know the alphabets in 2 other languages in our country. But does that make you a qualified teacher? You may know sir, 10 textbooks by heart. Quran, you may know 10, sir. You may know 10 textbooks by heart. Sir, but does that make you a qualified teacher? Does that make you a qualified teacher?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It makes you a qualified teacher if you know 10 textbooks by heart. So why should I do a B.Ed degree? Why should I train to be a teacher? Why should I train to be a teacher? No, Zina ji, आप स्कॉलर हैं, आप मुझे प्लीज बताएं. मुझे 12 टेक्स्ट बुक्स याद है मैडम, तो मैं पढ़ा दूं. मुझे शेक्सपियर की 3 किताबें याद हैं, मुझे 3 किताबें वर्ड्सवर्थ की याद है और मुझे रेनन मार्टिन याद है ग्रामर की, तो मैं पढ़ा दूं। कैन आई बिकम एन इंग्लिश टीचर? जीना जी, कैन आई बिकम, जीना जी, कैन आई बिकम अ टीचर? कैन आई जस्ट गो ahead because I know these by heart? Can I become a teacher?
Sir, I need only one book, that is Quran. If I want to learn Islam, I need only one book.
Sir,
I don't
if you
need
want to learn, if you want to learn, if you want to be a well-rounded person, can you do it by only religious instruction, sir? Or do you need well-rounded instruction? And
Sir,
if a child is going to an institution, can that child not receive all sorts of instruction there? Zina Chaukat Ali and then Binay Kumar Singh. 27 minutes and I have not gone to Binay ji. Binay ji, coming to you, sir. I'm mindful of time. Please.
Thank you. And the first thing is, by all means, कि कुरान शरीफ पढ़ना चाहिए, उसका हाफिज बनना चाहिए, लेकिन उसका मतलब भी समझना चाहिए, और उसमें से जो कुरान शरीफ में नॉलेज है वो भी समझना चाहिए। जो कुरान शरीफ में लिखा गया है 800 plus 5 verses to do with इकरा, education, ilm and its derivatives, ये भी समझना चाहिए। ये सब चीज जो है वो सिर्फ एक it is not learned by rote। ये चीज जो है वो अपने आप में इम्बाइब होती है, उसके एथिक्स, उसके आइडियाज, उसके वैल्यूज। और रसूल की तो बड़ी एक कहावत है, सीक नॉलेज इवन दो इट बीइंग चाइना। तो उसका क्या मतलब हुआ? तो मतलब चाइना में क्या कुरान शरीफ पर सिखाते थे? बट द थिंग इज दैट आप दूसरी दुनियावी नॉलेज को गेन कीजिए। आपको हर किस्म का नॉलेज गेन करना, ये आपका फर्ज है।
So in that, no, 1 minute. No, Tausif, talk time over, please. Binay ji. So it is not about what is there in the Quran and who can teach the Quran. It's about having a structure and a methodology, and also having a certain amount of audit as to who is doing what and who is doing what in our country, and are they doing it the right way, because everybody consensuously wants it to be religious instruction to be correct. We don't want random people to come and claim that they are the ones who have the authority. Binay ji, thank you so much for your patience. I'm coming across to you with my fundamental question. Why is Arshad Madani saying what he is saying now? And the tone, is there more to it than just a survey or resistance to a survey? Is the Jamiyat openly declaring Kajjal's open war with the current system, current establishment?
Anand, my simple request that I request, Tausif, that don't please interrupt in between. He has a very bad habit of not letting others speak. So, Anand, there are two things: how equal to science and why equals to wisdom. So any religion or any education, if that is anti-who and anti-why, that means it is anti-science and anti-wisdom. So I don't think Islam is anti-science or anti-wisdom. So Islam and Deoband or the madarsas, they are two different things, but just don't club it together.
Okay.
And one more thing, Anand, we are doing a madarsa audit, we need to have a security audit across the world, that the ideologies which propagated in India, how such many ideologies including Deoband, Tabligis, they are responsible for deaths across the globe in the last century. This is also a subject to audit. And one more thing, according to Deoband, my friend Tausif is on television channel, and it is a haram, using TV and being photographed. It is a fatwa of the same Deoband issued in 2013. So you are speaking on television channel, you are a panelist, and at the same time, how can you support Deoband? It has a fatwa which doesn't allow to be a TV panelist. And this is not the first time what Maulana Arshad Madani has said. He is a history seeker.
Tausif, I will mute your mic. Please don't interrupt anymore. Please don't interrupt.
I told you have a very dirty habit.
I'll come to your clarification.
You have a very bad habit of interfering.
Okay, please continue, Binay ji.
Yeah. Anand, this is not the first time what Madani has said. He is a history seeker. He is a history of that. He once said he supported Taliban, and he said that the Taliban say they are doing what we did in India. The way we kicked British out of India, that is what the Taliban are doing in Afghanistan. They are kicking out outsiders, first the Russian and the Americans. This is the statement of Madani. They are supporting, Taliban. Though 99% of the Talibanis, they have never visited India, but they proudly say that yes, we are Wahhabis and we practice the Deoband format of Islam. So though all the students of Deoband, they are not terrorists. No one can say that. But yes, a few of them who proudly say and they boast that we are a Deobandi format, Deoband must come with a critic. Deoband must, criticize them openly, internationally.
Yeah.
But the things are different here, Anand, and I think this is going to give a very wrong impression on the students, studying over there, that the chief of Deoband, he is appreciating Taliban. He is appreciating Taliban in full format.
Well.
And last point,
please,
Anand, it is not about Hinduism, Christianity or Islam. The last and final line is that any religion or any book, if that is anti-why and if that is anti-who, that means it is anti-science and it is anti-wisdom. And I think Jinat Ali ji is a true Islamist, she is a true Muslim, and I think she doesn't stand in confrontation with any other.
No, in that case, I'll tell you, Binayji, one thing is, Tausif has not come out in defense of the Deoband. He's coming out and saying that don't target madrasas and don't brand madrasas. What his point of view is that don't brand madrasas and paint them all like school of jihad. That they are not. The other aspect, and I very clearly and humbly accept, is that his point came from a political opposition to the BJP and the current establishment, and that's where it stuck up from, if I understand through the course of the debate. But he's also concerned. He's also not for anybody giving wrong instruction or using the madrasa platform to try and brainwash or radicalize, which he himself says should be shut down. He accepted that. What I am trying to say is that when we come to the Deoband is not Islam. They claim to be one of the sects of Islam. And interestingly, Al-Wahab and Waliullah Shah Delhi both studied in the same seminary. One went west, the other one came east, and then it is from Delhi and Delhi's son, Shahid Delhi, thereafter, that the Barelvi and the Deobandi sects also mushroomed. So that's all there in history. But what I am coming back to, Binayji, is why is he saying this now? Is he saying this with a particular intent? At a time when the actions and the activities of the Jamiyat are coming under scanner increasingly for their hand or behind the shadows operations on a lot of aspects that we have seen across our country. Is he saying this? Should it be taken very seriously, or is he just a history cheater, like you said, a rabble rouser, and he should just be allowed to let slide?
Anand, the same Deoband, they have a history of joining Mahatma Gandhi's freedom struggle. The same Deoband, they have a history. And the same Deoband, they have a present like Maulana Madni, who is advocating for terrorism, who is supporting terrorism in open, who is anti-wisdom, who is anti-science, who is anti-laptop. So it is up to Deoband. They want to modernize themselves or not. They want to go with the version of that Deoband which participated in the freedom struggle with Mahatma Gandhi, or this version what Mr. Madni is advocating for. This is a challenge with Deoband.
Well, now
Deoband needs to decide.
Well, you've left it on the Deoband. We are turning around and saying we all need to be conscious about who's teaching what, especially about religious instruction, and should religion, science and spirituality go hand in hand? Religion and the what and the who, should that go hand in hand? These are the aspects which we need to be concerned about. And if the state is saying let's get an audit of who is doing what, who is operating, and if they are all operating fairly and if they are all doing the right thing, why should we oppose that, and why should a strong position like what Arshad Madani has taken be done? Now the Deoband and of course conscientious citizens of our country have to turn around and decide who will they choose, or whether or not they will reject orthodoxy, reject the likes of Arshad Madani, and choose the more practical option where religion goes along with modernity, with science and with art. Thank you very much to all our panelists. Have to wind up this debate. When we come back, it's a straight face-off on yet another issue. Common code versus personal law. Can personal law supersede something like POCSO, ladies and gentlemen? Is that possible? That's the confusion that happens. One court has decided one way, but there are other courts which have decided the other. So should we then have a common code? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
that they are able to do it smoothly and you know and much faster.
Our big focus through the day today is going to remain Morbi, where late last evening a bridge collapsed over the Machu River. This was in Gujarat's Morbi district. 135 people so far have lost their lives. Many more are feared to be dead. This is a century-old suspension bridge on the Machu River, as we just said. It's about 240 kilometers from Gandhinagar. It collapsed on Sunday evening. The bridge had reopened just 4 days ago after being closed for about 7 months for repair works. Now, NDRF, SDRF, Navy and Air Force teams are currently carrying out rescue operations as we speak. The Chief Minister reached last night. He took stock of the entire situation. A ex gratia amount of 2 lakhs has been announced for the kin as we speak. Now, the main reason being blamed by officials is that there were too many people on the bridge itself. But we're going to take a deeper dive through the show as to who and what authorities were responsible. First, take a look at what the Prime Minister had to say just a few minutes ago.
मैं एकता नगर में हूं, पर मेरा मन मोरबी के पीड़ितों से जुड़ा हुआ है। शायद ही जीवन में बहुत कम ऐसी पीड़ा मैंने अनुभव की होगी, लेकिन करुणा से भरा मन उन पीड़ित परिवारों के बीच में है। हादसे में जिन लोगों को अपना जीवन गंवाना पड़ा है, मैं उनके परिवारों के प्रति अपनी संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं। दुख की इस घड़ी में सरकार हर तरह से पीड़ित परिवारों के साथ है। गुजरात सरकार पूरी शक्ति से कल शाम से ही राहत और बचाव कार्यों में जुटी हुई है। केंद्र सरकार की तरफ से भी राज्य सरकार को पूरी मदद दी जा रही है। बचाव कार्य में एनडीआरएफ की टीमों को लगाया गया है। सेना और वायुसेना भी राहत के काम में जुटी हुई है। जिन लोगों का अस्पताल में इलाज चल रहा है, वहां भी पूरी मुस्तैदी बरती जा रही है। लोगों की दिक्कतें कम से कम हो, इसे प्राथमिकता दी जा रही है। हादसे की खबर मिलने के बाद ही गुजरात के मुख्यमंत्री श्रीमान भूपेंद्र भाई रात को ही मोरबी पहुंच गए थे। कल से ही वो राहत और बचाव के कार्यों की कमान संभाले हुए हैं। राज्य सरकार की तरफ से इस हादसे की जांच के लिए एक कमेटी भी बना दी गई है। मैं देश के लोगों को आश्वस्त करता हूं कि राहत और बचाव के कार्यों में कोई कमी नहीं आने दी जाएगी। आज राष्ट्रीय एकता दिवस का ये अवसर भी हमें एकजुट होकर इस मुश्किल घड़ी का सामना करने, कर्तव्य पथ पर बने रहने की प्रेरणा दे रहा है।
My colleague Siddhant Mishra has been with us live this morning from Morbi, where rescue efforts currently continue as we speak. Let's go over to him right now to understand more. Siddhant, I believe you are with rescue officials and divers who are undertaking the rescue operations. I do want to know more about that, but first, could you confirm for us, is it correct to say that the Prime Minister has not yet confirmed whether or not he'll be visiting victims in Morbi?
Well, yes, he has not confirmed, and there is no confirmation from Prime Minister's office. But Toya, right now we are at the epicenter of the collapse. Now behind me you can see this hanging bridge, the debris. One can see right behind me in my camera. So this debris has been removed. This hanging bridge has been removed with the help of crane, and divers are right now diving in this one patch just to see whether anybody is stuck, dead or alive. So to check that, divers are jumping into this one patch. We'll speak to. Okay, fine. I am on Indian Coast Guard's boat. There is very less space on this boat, but we are here for our viewers to give a sense that how much Indian Coast Guard is dedicated as far as rescue works are concerned. The diver is getting ready. He is going to dive in this one patch because crane has removed the debris. Now they are going to get inside the water and check. And remember, stagnant water it's very difficult to carry out rescue operations in stagnant water because it is dirty, it is full of garbage. Let me speak. Sir, आपका नाम?
डाइवर मोनू।
मोनू साहब, आप पहले भी डाइव करके वापस गए थे, फिर आपने हमें अपनी बोट में बैठाया, अब आप फिर डाइव कर रहे हैं। कितना मुश्किल भरा होता है?
मुश्किल है, यहाँ पे विजिबिलिटी कम है और यहाँ पे गार्बेज भी ज़्यादा है नीचे।
Back on with news just coming through ahead of his visit to Morbi on Tuesday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has chaired a high-level meeting to review the situation on ground. He's been briefed on the rescue and relief operations which have come to a conclusion by the evening today. As of evening, almost all the teams except 2 or 3 teams who are still looking for one child who's missing have already departed for their bases. The Prime Minister has emphasized on ensuring that those affected get all possible assistance. The high-level meeting was also attended by Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel and the MOS Home and the Chief Secretary and DGP of Gujarat. So Harsh Sanghvi also present there. They have been, both Bhupendra Patel and Harsh Sanghvi have been in Morbi since late last evening. And they have been there overseeing the rescue operations altogether. The Prime Minister has very clearly said that all possible help needs to be extended to the families that have been affected because of this tragedy. Earlier in the day, while speaking on 2 separate occasions, the Prime Minister appeared very, very emotional. He has a very strong connect and a very old connect with not just the people of Gujarat, but more importantly Morbi, where he served in the past as a pracharak too, and he was also part of the rescue efforts when the earthquake hit this region. Now the Prime Minister cancelling all his programs. He's in Gujarat over a 3-day election tour. He's cancelled all his public rallies and roadshows and just doing more of what is the state-bound requirements and certain formalities which he could not skip. He has waited for the rescue operations to be completed and for all the work to be done after the tragedy to go ahead and then pay a visit to the people at Morbi. So he will be there in Morbi on Tuesday. These are the pictures of the high-level meeting that he has just chaired and taken stock of the situation on ground. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's set up this face-off. In our country, which is so diverse, has many cultures, many communities, and each community have different sects and different groupings, and everybody has a different interpretation of their own personal laws. So when what is in law in the interest of the people of the country, with the state seen as one solid entity and its citizens seen as one single entity, when it clashes with these individual personal laws, what should prevail? Now let's come to the aspect. Where do the clashes happen? The clashes happen when cases of marriageable age, because there are certain sects like the Shariat and even other community, ladies and gentlemen, where they believe that when the boy, girl attain puberty, they can be married off. So if be it 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, irrespective. But what does the law precise say? 18. Any marriage of a girl under the age of 18 is not constitutionally valid. Now there are demands that there should be parity. Both boy and girl should be brought to the same age. But right now it's 18 and 21. Now, abolition of polygamy as a practice. Now state says polygamy is not allowed, but there are certain communities, sects where more than one marriage is allowed. So what should prevail? Maintenance for women. under the CRPC. Then equal succession and inheritance, and of course marriages as contractual obligations. 6. Abolition of the practice of iddat. Now these are all points where personal law under the Sharia and of course what is the CRPC or what the law all collide, they don't converge. Now when it comes to POCSO, that's the POCSO Act. Can personal law override POCSO? Is there in this entire fight between common code and personal law, is it high time that there is a certain uniformity whereas these matters are concerned? Ishkaran Bhandari and Tausif Ahmed Khan, advocate and political analyst with us. Namaste, festive greetings gentlemen, and good to see you on the show. Let's go straight up. It's between the two of you. I request you to yield and allow the other, just like you would do in a courtroom. But here I am no judge. The jury is the people and you are the two voices advocating your thoughts. So let's start with Ishkaran Bhandari. Common code versus personal law. How do you interpret this? Because Ishkaran, if a Karnataka court has said that POCSO prevails over the personal law, there are other courts in our country which have ruled the other way, who have interpreted it in certain aspects. They have interpreted it the other way, saying that your community believes this, so I cannot supersede because we are not under jurisdiction. So then are the courts to blame?
No,
or is the interpretation different?
Let's start with the basic.
Ji.
We are still operated in large part. Britishers were ruling India in revenue and law,
for which they made uniform laws. You have Indian Contract Act, you have specific Reef Act, governing your revenue aspects, contractual aspects, business aspects. They did not want to have dacoity, murder, they want to extort resources, take them out. So we had a uniform criminal code. The only thing they did not care about is, either for Hindus, Muslims or any community, is how you marry, how many times you marry, when you marry, etc., etc., etc. They had no business there, they didn't care about it, they were not bothered about how India is governed. So they didn't care about it, and we had personal laws. So when our constitution was being framed, we brought in Article 44, which said that states endeavor to have a uniform civil code. Let's pause here. That time, Hindus also are having personal laws, Muslims are also having personal laws. So obviously, as constitution makers thought, at one go, we will regulate, modernize all the personal laws together, because nobody is allowed to have a personal law. What happens is, Jawaharlal Nehru says Muslim community is not ready for reform. It is an internal matter, the typical leftist line, secular, so-called secular line, and he brings in a Hindu code bill, which was omnibus bill, which regulated all aspects, marriage, divorce, succession, etc., etc. Now the ill effects of that, Supreme Court from 1980s, Shah Banu onwards, has been saying we need a uniform civil code in the country. We need to have a certain marriageable age. Section 494. Do you want anybody to be able, under his personal law, to marry multiple times? Can that be tolerated? And where are all these women empowerment groups? Where are all these feminist groups? Why are they not opposing a man being able to marry multiple times under the law? So these are very basic questions. Or where are all these child right activists which would normally scream if a minor child, technically a 16-year-old can marry a 70-year-old? You're not allowed to vote. You are not allowed to own property. You can't sign a basic simple contract because you are a minor. You don't have agency. But your entire life could be decided at the age of 16. So it is but obvious that we need a uniform civil code which takes care of all these evils. And just as the Muslim community has submitted to the uniform criminal code and they agreed to uniform civil code in all Western democracies, I don't think so it can be any debate except of vote bank politics to oppose it.
But see, in this case, Karnataka High Court, because it was POCSO and it was Shariat that came into play, so that's why it is the issue is Shariat. But I'll tell you, even in Hindu communities, there are a lot of communities where the girl children are married off very, very early. Now, child marriage has become a criminal aspect and it stopped. But the fact is that there are many who would want it as their practice. When you talk about polygamy, even that was prevalent among the Hindu community for a long time. But where do you stand, Tausif, if I may ask you this? In this choice, in a society like India, in a country like India, should there not be a uniform rule for anybody or everybody? Because let's say today, hypothetically, in your case, now you as a Muslim get married to a girl or a person from another community. Now, in that, if there is a dispute tomorrow, what should prevail? Your law, your personal law, or the partner's personal law, or should there be a common law through which both of you will get justice? This is where it fundamentally stands up, doesn't it?
See, law is very clear. If there is an intercaste marriage, then they are governed. These marriages are governed by Special Marriage Act, which is more or less the provisions of Indian Marriage Act. Then there are Hindu Marriage Act. Then we have personal law of Muslims. You see, a demand for uniform civil code has always been made, right? You know, and especially when there is a election around the corner. There was a petition filed recently in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has rejected to entertain that petition. Just 1 or 2 days ago, Supreme Court didn't refused to entertain that petition to implement a uniform civil code, because the provision of uniform civil code is there in the Constitution. It was discussed in the Constituent Assembly with all the draftsmen of the Constitution. When they were all debating the contents of the Constitution, they discussed about the uniform civil code, and they have come to a conclusion that we cannot enforce the uniform civil code. And then as recent as 2018 Law Commission recommendation is there, which says that the uniform civil code at present is neither necessary nor desirable. So these are the facts. Now, what is the contrast to it? Now we see that one state government has passed an order saying that we are going to constitute a committee to look if uniform civil code can be implemented, and only in state. You see, the provision is about applying the uniform civil code in entire country. Now, one aspect to uniform civil code is the marriage law that we were just discussing.
Correct.
A marriage in Islam is a contract. Marriage in Hindu religion is a union for 7 birth. And then in Christianity is again, exchanging vows where they say I do. Now, this is the concept which comes from the religion, which is there in practice, in custom, since time, immemorial. And on the other hand, there are other aspects of civil law as well, like, for example, a tax benefit that a member of a Hindu undivided family gets, which does not apply to a person from another community. So when you discuss about uniform civil code, what do you mean by that? Is the intention only to politicize? Is only
no,
to
the intention is to
Muslim
bring a certain
personal
level
law?
of parity. See, I'll tell you why. Politics तो आप तौसीफ आप भी जानते हो, सब जानते हैं. In our country there is no time when there is no election. That's how the system is currently, because we are such a large country, and every state, some state or the other, is always perennially in election mode. Something municipal election चल रहा है तो election, assembly election चल रहा है election, कुछ तो चल रहा है कहीं ना कहीं, कोई तो बाईपुल चल ही रहा था. But let's keep that aside. I'm just saying from a larger point of view, don't you think that we are at a point where we need to do it? Because our founding fathers also decided on a lot of things, that India is not socialist, India is not secular, but we find those words forcibly added to our constitution. So are we fighting that today, saying let's revert to back the original print, where it said that it is just a sovereign democratic republic? So constitution also went under changes. At that time our founding fathers said our country is not perhaps ready, certain communities are not ready. But are we not ready today? How would you give somebody justice in these 5-6 cases? Adoption, inheritance, at parity as far as marriage is concerned, divorce is concerned. You know the 5 aspects which come under the ambit of personal law. Iskaran, please respond.
Just one fact, Anand. Our founding fathers thought our country is ready for a uniform civil code. They brought Article 44. Our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, did not think Muslim community is ready. There's a fundamental difference between the first Prime Minister elected under the Constitution and the drafters and the framers of the Constitution. The second point blank question to Mr. Khan. You want 16-year-old girls to be able to marry 50-year-old men, or do you want it to be stopped? Do you think man should have multiple marriages in today's world or not? 2 simple questions.
No, and not just that. If man should have multiple marriages, then will you stop a woman from having multiple marriages? And in that case, can a 50-year-old woman marry a 16-year-old boy? And will you stop that? Or will there be any parity? And the other thing is, who gets justice and who doesn't get justice, on what basis? Because courts turned around and in certain judgments turned around and said, despite that the Special Marriage Act doesn't apply, Tausif. It said that you have to decide whosoever, and they'll lend towards one community's pratha versus another community's pratha or sex pratha. So these are aspects. Shouldn't we have some clarity on it today in 2022? Tausif, final word. I have to wind. actually...
You see the age of the girl's marriage, needs to be debated whether it should be 16, should be 18 or 21. Now, if you're talking about, multiple marriage, one side, the law has decriminalized adultery. And on the other side, you are harping on the fact that it is a union for 7 years and there should be no
whatever
cheating.
it is, the law...
Why have you
what the scriptures say, what the scriptures say is different from what the law says. There are different. So don't try and mix the scriptures with what the law says. The philosophical interpretation is different in terms of the union of the minds and body, and what the contract says, it's still a contract. It's a binding contract between two people. Now, I have to wind up. I've run over time. We'll take this forward. Thank you very much. Winding up the right stand. Brass tacks with Anusha follows.
Good evening, hello and welcome to Brass Tacks. I'm Anusha Soni. Over 130 people, which includes women and children, have lost their lives in a man-made disaster. Yesterday evening, the entire country saw the chilling visuals of an overloaded suspension bridge collapsing, plunging hundreds into the river below. Now, the bridge was earlier closed for repair and restoration work, but was opened in a hurry by the contractors without any fitness clearance certificate by the authorities.